They're not my sons. My sons should be white. Ethan Marshall's voice thunders through the sterile Brooklyn hospital room, his finger jabbing accusingly at Aisha Brooks and her newborn twins, Malik and Jaden. Their dark skin, a rich echo of Aisha's African-American heritage, sparks shame in the billionaire's eyes. Aisha, trembling on the hospital bed, clutches her babies, her heart splintering as tears trace her cheeks. Ethan's words sear, yet her gaze hardens, defiant. Will Aisha rise from this betrayal? Can her sons reclaim their truth? A journey of justice awaits, woven with Harlem's vibrant soul. Subscribe to our channel, share where and when you're tuning in, and rate this story. 1 for gripping, 0 if it falls flat. What's your prediction for their triumph? Will lies crumble? Stay with us to uncover their saga. The echo of Ethan Marshall's venomous words, "They're not my sons," still burned in Aisha Brooks' ears as she lay on the hospital bed, her arms cradling Malik and Jaden. Their tiny dark-skinned bodies, swaddled in soft cotton, pressed against her chest, their warmth a stark contrast to the sterile chill of the Brooklyn ward. Aisha's fingers tightened around the silver necklace Ethan had given her months ago, its delicate chain now a lifeline to her resolve. His towering figure lingered in the doorway, his gray suit pristine, his blue eyes cold as steel. He pointed again, his voice a low growl. "You heard me, Aisha. They're too dark. They'll ruin everything. My name, Vanguard Styles, the upcoming gala. Fix this, or you're done." Aisha's breath hitched, her body aching from labor, but her gaze locked onto Ethan's. The man she'd loved, the billionaire who'd whispered promises in late-night office meetings, now stood as her betrayer. Her heart splintered, not from love lost, but from the weight of his shame. Shame for her son's rich mahogany skin, her own African-American heritage. "You're ashamed of them," she said, her voice trembling but sharp, cutting through the antiseptic air. "You're ashamed of me." Ethan's jaw clenched, his hand dropping. "This isn't personal, Aisha. It's business. Vanguard is luxury, prestige. White-gloved clients don't want this." He gestured vaguely at the twins, his words slicing like a blade. Aisha's eyes flared, her pain igniting into defiance. "This!" she spat, her voice rising. "These are our sons, Ethan. Malik and Jaden. They're perfect, and you're too blind to see it." A nurse, her badge reading Tasha, hesitated at the door, her brown eyes wide with concern. Aisha ignored her, sitting up despite the stab of pain in her abdomen. The twins stirred, Malik letting out a soft whimper. Aisha's hand brushed his cheek, her touch steadying her rage. "You think your gala matters more than them?" she said, her voice now a low, fierce whisper. "Your empire of lies?" Ethan stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking on the linoleum. "You don't get it, do you? The investors, the board, they expect perfection. A black single mother, 2 dark kids? That's not the image I've built." His voice softened, but not with kindness, only calculation. "End this, Aisha, or you'll lose your job, your future. I'll make sure of it." The threat landed like a punch, but Aisha's resolve hardened. She remembered the late nights at Vanguard Styles, her meticulous data analysis fueling Ethan's empire, their stolen moments in his Manhattan office where he'd called her his muse. Now those memories felt like ash. She clutched the necklace, its silver biting into her palm, no longer a token of love, but a symbol of her fight. "You don't own me, Ethan," she said, her voice steady now. "And you don't own them? We don't need you." Ethan's face twitched, a flicker of doubt crossing his features. He opened his mouth, but Aisha cut him off. "Get out." Her words were a command, not a plea, her eyes blazing with a fire born of betrayal. Tasha, the nurse, stepped forward, her voice firm. "Sir, you need to leave. Now." Ethan's gaze darted between them, his confidence faltering. He straightened his tie, a nervous tick, and turned toward the door. "You're making a mistake," he muttered, his voice lacking conviction. His footsteps echoed down the corridor, fading into silence. Aisha sank back against the pillows, her breath ragged. Tears threatened, but she bit them back, her jaw tight. Malik and Jaden nestled closer, their tiny hearts beating against hers. She looked down at them, their dark curls peeking from their swaddles, and whispered, "You're enough. We're enough." The words were a vow carved into her soul. Tasha lingered, her hand resting on the bed rail. "You okay, honey?" she asked, her Brooklyn accent warm, grounding. Aisha nodded, though her chest ached. "I will be," she said, her voice soft but resolute. Tasha's eyes softened, recognizing the strength in Aisha's pain. "You're a fighter. Those boys are lucky to have you." Aisha's gaze drifted to the window, where Brooklyn's skyline loomed under a gray dawn. The city pulsed with life. Street vendors, jazz notes floating from distant clubs, the heartbeat of Harlem just beyond. She thought of her mother, who'd raised her alone in a cramped apartment, weaving stories of resilience and pride. Aisha's fingers traced the necklace, its silver glinting faintly. Ethan had given it to her in a moment of tenderness, but now it was hers, a talisman of survival, not his claim. She imagined the challenges ahead, the whispers at Vanguard, the struggle to keep her job, the nights she'd work to feed her sons. But in Harlem, she'd find strength. Community markets with kente cloth stalls, elders like her mother who'd fought and thrived. Aisha kissed Malik's forehead, then Jaden's, their warmth fueling her fire. "We'll build our own empire," she whispered, her voice a promise to the city, to her sons, to herself. The hospital room grew quiet, save for the twins' soft breaths. Aisha's heart steadied, her pain forging into purpose. Ethan's world of galas and lies would not define her. She was Aisha Brooks, daughter of Harlem, mother of Malik and Jaden, and she would rise. Aisha Brooks' sneakers scuffed the worn linoleum of her Harlem apartment, the faint hum of a jazz trumpet seeping through the thin walls from a neighbor's radio. Malik and Jaden, now 3 months old, slept in their shared crib, their dark curls peeking out from soft blankets. Aisha's hands trembled as she pinned a pattern to a swatch of kente cloth, its vibrant gold and red threads a defiant splash of heritage against the gray of her reality. Ethan's words, "They'll ruin everything," still clawed at her heart, but she shoved them down, her fingers gripping the silver necklace that hung heavy around her neck. No longer a lover's gift, it was her anchor, a reminder of the vow she'd made to her sons. Her desk, cluttered with fabric scraps and a borrowed laptop, glowed with an online fashion design course. Vanguard Styles had demoted her to data entry, slashing her pay to a pittance, but Aisha refused to break. She worked nights, her eyes burning from spreadsheets, then stitched until dawn, teaching herself to weave dreams into cloth. "You're enough," she whispered to the sleeping twins, her voice a soft echo of that hospital promise. The city outside thrummed, Harlem's pulse of laughter, street vendors and distant saxophones. But inside, Aisha fought a quieter battle. The rent was late again. Bills piled up like accusations, each one a reminder of Ethan's threat. "You'll lose your future." She'd kept her job at Vanguard, swallowing the humiliation of fetching coffee for colleagues who once respected her data analysis. But Harlem gave her strength. At the community center down the block, she found a flyer for a sewing workshop led by Mrs. Ruby Carter, a legendary tailor whose designs had once graced Black-owned boutiques in the 80s. Aisha tucked the flyer into her pocket, her heart stirring with possibility. Saturday morning, she bundled Malik and Jaden into a stroller, their tiny hands clutching stuffed lions she'd sewn from fabric scraps. The community center buzzed with life, elders swapping stories, kids sketching on butcher paper, a jazz quartet warming up in the corner. Mrs. Ruby stood at a table draped with kente and Ankara cloth, her silver braids gleaming under fluorescent lights. Her eyes, sharp yet warm, landed on Aisha. "You look like you've got a fire in you, child," she said, her voice rich with a Brooklyn lilt. "What's it burning for?" Aisha hesitated, the weight of Ethan's betrayal pressing against her ribs. "For them," she said, nodding toward her sons. "I'm Aisha Brooks. I want to learn to make something of my own." Ruby's gaze softened, but her smile was fierce. "You're in the right place. Harlem's been building dreams from ashes forever." She handed Aisha a needle and thread, gesturing to a bolt of kente. "Start here. This cloth carries our stories. Make it sing." As Aisha stitched, Ruby shared her own tale. "I designed for boutiques, back when folks thought black fashion couldn't shine. Got pushed out by big names like Vanguard. Her voice hardened. They don't want our light, but we shine anyway. Aisha's needle paused, Ruby's words striking a chord. She thought of Vanguard's glossy runways built on stolen brilliance. Did you ever fight back? She asked, her voice low. Ruby chuckled, bitter but proud. Every stitch was my fight. You'll find yours too. She showed Aisha how to weave Kente's bold patterns into a jacket, her hands steady, guiding. Malik giggled, waving his lion, and Jaden babbled, mimicking the jazz quartet's rhythm. Aisha's heart swelled. Their innocence fueled her. She imagined dressing them in her designs, their dark skin radiant against gold and crimson threads. Back home, Aisha worked late, her laptop screen casting shadows as she studied draping techniques. The jazz from next door bled into her thoughts, its soulful wail echoing her resolve. She sketched a dress inspired by the Kente Ruby loved, its lines bold yet elegant, like Harlem itself. But exhaustion crept in. Her bank account was nearly empty, and Vanguard's demotion felt like a noose. She touched the necklace, its silver cool against her skin. We don't need him, she murmured, glancing at her son's crib. Ethan's empire loomed, but she'd carve her own. A knock startled her. Her neighbor, Miss Lena, poked her head in, holding a plate of cornbread. You burning the midnight oil again? She teased, her eyes kind. Aisha smiled, weary but grateful. Trying to keep up with these boys? Lena glanced at the Kente scraps. You're building something big, Aisha. Harlem sees you. The words wrapped around her like a quilt, warm and grounding. As Lena left, Aisha returned to her sketch. The dress took shape, fierce, unapologetic, a testament to her roots. She thought of Ruby's story, of Vanguard's polished lies. A memory flickered. An old storage room at work, filled with forgotten files. Could there be secrets buried there? She shook her head, too tired to chase the thought tonight. But the seed was planted, her fire growing. Malik stirred, his tiny hand reaching for Jaden's. Aisha kissed their foreheads, her vow renewing. We'll rise, she whispered, the jazz outside swelling like a battle cry. Harlem's heartbeat pulsed through her, and she knew this was only the beginning. Aisha Brooks's fingers brushed the cold metal of a filing cabinet, the air in Vanguard Style's basement storage room thick with dust and secrets. The faint pulse of Harlem's jazz, a memory from her apartment, still hummed in her veins. But here in the bowels of Manhattan's fashion empire, silence reigned. Her demotion to data entry had landed her this grunt work, sorting old files for the company's digital archive. But the seed planted nights ago, when she'd sketched that Kente-inspired dress, had taken root. Something was hidden here. She felt it. Malik and Jaden's laughter, their tiny hands clutching her sewn lions, fueled her. She clutched the silver necklace, its weight a reminder of her vow. We'll rise. The storage room was a maze of cardboard boxes and outdated tech, relics of Vanguard's climb to glory. Aisha's flashlight beam danced across labels faded by time, her heart pounding as she recalled Mrs. Ruby's words, "They don't want our light." Ruby's tale of being pushed out by big fashion houses gnawed at her, mirroring her own humiliation under Ethan's thumb. She'd kept her job, barely, but every sidelong glance from colleagues stung. Her hands, calloused from late-night sewing, rifled through a box marked 1990s archives. Inside, an old hard drive caught her eye, its surface scratched, but intact. Her gut twisted. This wasn't just junk. Plugging the drive into a dusty computer, Aisha's breath caught as files flickered to life. Sketches vibrant and bold filled the screen. Dresses and suits with patterns that echoed the kente cloth Ruby had shown her, but sharper, infused with a soul she recognized. The name Denise Harper was scrawled in digital ink, dated over a decade ago. Aisha's eyes widened. These designs were the backbone of Vanguard's iconic 2000s collections, the ones that had crowned Ethan's empire. Her fingers trembled as she opened a text file, a journal entry from Denise. My designs, my heart, stolen by Laura Bennett. They fired me, silenced me, because my blackness didn't fit their world. Aisha's chest tightened, rage simmering beneath her exhaustion. Denise's words were a mirror. Her own blackness had been Ethan's excuse to reject Malik and Jaden. She scrolled further, finding a grainy video clip. Denise's face appeared, her eyes fierce yet weary, speaking to a colleague. Laura took my sketches, said they'd never sell from a black woman. I fought, but they crushed me. The video cut off, but Aisha's pulse roared. This was theft, a betrayal deeper than her own. Footsteps echoed behind her. Aisha spun, clutching the hard drive. Tyrone Jackson, a janitor who'd once shared coffee breaks with her in better days, leaned against the doorframe. His graying beard framed a knowing smile. You found something, didn't you? He said, his voice low, Harlem's cadence warm but cautious. Aisha hesitated, then nodded. Denise Harper. They stole her work. Tyrone's eyes darkened. I knew Denise. Brilliant, fierce, like you. Laura and Ethan forced her to sign a gag order, paid her pennies to disappear. He stepped closer, glancing at the drive. You keep digging. They'll come for you. Aisha's grip on the necklace tightened, its silver biting her palm. Let them try, she said, her voice a quiet blade. I'm not Denise. I won't stay silent. Tyrone chuckled, but worry creased his brow. Careful, Aisha. Laura's got eyes everywhere. He handed her a crumpled business card for Denise, now a tailor in Queens. Find her. She's got more to tell. Aisha pocketed the card, her mind racing. Back home, she'd pore over the drive. But here, in Vanguard's shadows, she felt the weight of a fight bigger than herself. As she locked the storage room, a chill ran down her spine. A figure lingered at the hallway's end. Laura Bennett, her blonde hair stark under fluorescent lights, her eyes narrowing. Working late, Aisha? Laura's voice was smooth, venomous. Aisha's heart skipped, but she squared her shoulders. Just doing my job, she said, her tone steady despite the hard drive burning a hole in her bag. Laura's smile didn't reach her eyes. Don't wander where you don't belong. Aisha walked away, her steps deliberate, but Laura's gaze bored into her back. In the elevator, she exhaled, the necklace cool against her skin. Harlem waited outside, its streetlights and jazz notes a beacon. She thought of Malik and Jaden, their crayons scattered across her apartment floor, their drawings of lions and stars mirroring her own sketches. They were her fire, her reason to fight. At home, she tucked the twins into their crib, their soft snores grounding her. She opened the hard drive again, Denise's sketches glowing on her laptop. Each line screamed of a stolen legacy, a black woman's brilliance erased. Aisha's fingers traced the kente patterns she'd learned from Ruby, her resolve hardening. This is for you, Denise, she whispered, and for my boys. A text buzzed her phone, an unknown number. Stop digging, or you'll lose more than your job. Aisha's breath caught, but she deleted the message, her jaw set. Laura's threats wouldn't break her. Harlem's spirit, Ruby's wisdom, and her son's futures fueled her. She'd find Denise, unearth the truth, and make Vanguard pay. The fight had just begun. Aisha Brooks's heart pounded as she stepped off the subway in Queens, the crumpled business card from Tyrone clutched in her hand. The address led to a small tailor shop, its window adorned with vibrant kente fabrics that shimmered like Harlem's soul. Malik and Jaden's laughter echoed in her mind, their crayon-drawn lions a beacon against the fear sparked by Laura Bennett's cold stare and that anonymous text. Stop digging. Aisha's fingers grazed the silver necklace, its weight grounding her. She'd uncovered Denise Harper's stolen legacy in Vanguard's dusty archives, and now, standing before this shop, she felt the pulse of a fight bigger than her own. Inside, Denise Harper, a woman in her late 50s, worked at a sewing machine, her hands deft despite the lines etched by years of struggle. Her eyes, dark and piercing, met Aisha's with a mix of wariness and recognition. You're the one Tyrone sent, Denise said, her voice low, carrying the cadence of a survivor. Aisha nodded, pulling the hard drive from her bag. I found your designs, Miss Harper. Vanguard stole them. Laura Bennett, Ethan Marshall. I need to know more. Denise's hands stilled, her gaze dropping to the kente cloth on her table. They took everything, she said, her voice a raw whisper. My sketches, my soul. Laura said my blackness wouldn't sell, forced me to sign a gag order or lose my home. She handed Aisha a worn sketchbook, its pages filled with bold designs, Dresses that echoed Vanguard's iconic lines but pulsed with African-American heritage. Patterns Aisha recognized from Mrs. Ruby's lessons. A sketch caught her eye, a gown with kente-inspired swirls captioned, "For my daughter never born." Aisha's throat tightened, thinking of Malik and Jaden, her own fight for them. "You're risking a lot," Denise warned, her eyes searching Aisha's. "Laura's ruthless. She'll come for your boys." Aisha's grip on the sketchbook tightened, her resolve flaring. "She won't touch them," she said, her voice ablade. "I'm fighting for us all." Denise's lips curved into a faint, fierce smile. "Then take this. It's my truth." She pressed the sketchbook into Aisha's hands, a silent pact forged. Back in Manhattan, Aisha's nerves jangled as she entered a Soho cafe to meet Keisha, her journalist friend. The air buzzed with the clink of espresso cups, but a shadow fell across her table. Laura Bennett stood there, her blonde hair gleaming, her smile venomous. "You're out of your depth, Aisha," Laura said, her voice silk over steel. "Keep poking around, and those sweet boys of yours, Malik and Jaden, right, might pay the price." Aisha's blood ran cold, her hand instinctively clutching the necklace. Laura knew their names. The anonymous text flashed in her mind, now unmistakably Laura's work. "You don't scare me," Aisha lied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. She stood, meeting Laura's gaze. "I know what you did to Denise. The world will too." Laura's smile faltered, but she leaned closer, her perfume sharp. "You're a data clerk, Aisha. A nobody from Harlem. I have lawyers, power. You'll lose everything." She turned on her heel, her stilettos clicking like a warning shot. Aisha's knees buckled as she sank back into her chair. Keisha arrived, her notepad ready, her eyes narrowing at Aisha's pale face. "What happened?" she asked, her Brooklyn accent thick with concern. Aisha recounted Laura's threat, her voice shaking but resolute. "She knows about my boys, Keisha. But I've got Denise's sketchbook. We're exposing Vanguard." Keisha's pen flew across the page, her jaw set. "I'm with you. This story's bigger than them." That evening, Aisha pushed Malik and Jaden's stroller through a Harlem street festival, the air alive with jazz horns and the scent of jerk chicken from food stalls. Vibrant kente banners fluttered above vendors selling beaded jewelry and African-inspired art. Mrs. Ruby stood at a booth, her silver braids catching the firelight of a nearby drum circle. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Ruby said, her eyes sharp. Aisha confessed Laura's threat, her voice low to shield her son's ears. Malik giggled, waving his lion toy, while Jaden clapped to the drum beat. Ruby's face hardened, but her hand gripped Aisha's. "Harlem's fought worse than Laura Bennett," she said. "Your boys are our boys. Keep going, Aisha." She handed Aisha a kente swatch, its gold threads gleaming. "Sew this into your work. Let it carry our strength." Aisha nodded, her fear melting into fire. The festival's energy, elders dancing, children laughing, wrapped around her like armor. At home, Aisha tucked the twins into their crib, their tiny hands clutching her fingers. She opened Denise's sketchbook, its pages a testament to a stolen dream. Laura's threat echoed, but so did Ruby's words. Aisha's fingers traced the necklace, her vow burning brighter. She'd meet Keisha tomorrow, plan their next move. Vanguard's lies would crumble, and her sons would see a mother who fought. Harlem's rhythm pulsed outside, a call to battle she'd answer. Malik Brooks leaned over a drafting table at Pratt Institute, his pencil sketching a jacket with kente-inspired swirls, each line a tribute to the Harlem Festival's firelight that still burned in his memory. At 18, his broad shoulders carried his mother's defiance, but his eyes flickered with a restless anger. Across the studio, Jaden, his twin, hunched over a laptop, his fingers dancing across keys to refine a digital print, pulsing with jazz rhythms. The brothers, now students of fashion and graphic design, had inherited Aisha's fire, but Laura Bennett's threat, "Those sweet boys of yours," hung like a shadow. Aisha's silver necklace, now split into two pendants shared between them, glinted on their chests, a silent vow to fight. In their dorm, Denise Harper's sketchbook lay open, its pages a testament to a stolen legacy. Malik's voice was tight as he paced. "We've got her designs, Jaden. Mom's got the hard drive. We take this to Fashion Week. Expose Vanguard now. His fist clenched, the pendant swinging. Jaden's brow furrowed, his quieter nature wrestling with caution. We need more proof, Malik. Laura's got lawyers, connections. What if she comes for Mom? His voice cracked, betraying fear for Aisha, still toiling at Vanguard's data entry desk. Malik stopped, his jaw tight. You think waiting makes us safe? Laura knows our names. She's already coming. He slammed the sketchbook shut, its thud echoing their mother's pain. Ethan's rejection, Laura's venom in that Soho cafe. Jaden stood, his eyes fierce but steady. I'm not scared for us, Malik. I'm scared for her. She's fought enough. The brothers locked eyes, their bond strained by diverging instincts. Malik's fire, Jaden's caution. Aisha's voice broke the tension, calling from the dorm's doorway. You two fighting again? Her tone was soft but firm, her presence grounding them like Harlem's jazz. She stepped inside, her coat dusted with city grit, the silver necklace's absence a reminder of her gift to her sons. We fight together, not against each other, she said, her eyes scanning their faces. Malik slumped, guilt softening his edges. Laura threatened you, Mom. Named us. We can't let her win. Jaden nodded, clutching his pendant. But we need a plan, not just anger. Aisha's lips curved, pride mixing with worry. You're my boys. We'll find a way. Their plan took shape with Maya Carter, their Pratt professor, a former Vanguard intern with a sharp mind and sharper tongue. In her office, surrounded by mood boards and jazz vinyls, Maya studied Denise's sketchbook. These designs built Vanguard's empire, she said, her voice low. I saw Laura hoard sketches back then, but I was too junior to speak. Her fingers tapped the hard drive Aisha had brought, now loaded with Denise's files. There's an email here, buried deep. Laura admitting she took Denise's work to cleanse it for the market. It's damning, Malik's eyes blazed. That's it. We show it at Fashion Week. Jaden hesitated, his pendant glinting. It's not enough. They'll bury it with lawyers. Maya leaned forward, her gaze steady. Dig deeper. Vanguard's old servers might have more. I know a guy. Hacker, discreet. Aisha's heart raced, Laura's threat echoing. Malik and Jaden, right? She nodded. Do it, but keep my boys safe. That night, in their Harlem apartment, Aisha stitched a kente-lined vest, its gold threads catching the lamplight. Malik and Jaden sprawled on the floor, sketching designs inspired by Denise and Mrs. Ruby's lessons. The radio played Coltrane, its soulful wail mirroring their resolve. But a buzz from Aisha's phone shattered the calm. An unknown number. Your sons are talented. Shame if they got hurt. Her breath caught, the words a knife. She deleted the text, her hands shaking, but didn't tell the boys. They didn't need fear. They needed her strength. Malik noticed her pause. What's wrong, Mom? His voice was sharp, protective. Aisha forced a smile, threading her needle. Just tired, baby. Keep drawing. Jaden's eyes lingered, sensing her lie, but he returned to his laptop, his digital print now a bold jazz spiral. Aisha's heart ached. Her boys were growing into warriors, but Laura's shadow loomed larger. She thought of Mrs. Ruby's words at the festival. Harlem's fought worse. The community's strength, its vendors, drummers, elders, pulsed in her veins. She met Keisha at a Harlem diner the next day, slipping her Denise's sketchbook. This is our weapon, Isha said, her voice low. Keisha's pen scratched furiously, her eyes alight. I'll dig into Laura's past. If there's dirt, I'll find it. Aisha nodded, her pendant-lace neck feeling bare, but her resolve ironclad. Back home, Malik and Jaden presented their Fashion Week sketches, bold, unapologetic, rooted in Harlem's soul. Aisha's eyes stung with pride. You're my legacy, she said, her voice breaking. As Coltrane's notes faded, Aisha clutched the vest, its kente threads a promise. Laura's threats wouldn't stop her. With Maya's hacker, Keisha's pen, and her son's fire, she'd unearth Vanguard's lies. Harlem's rhythm beat on, and Aisha knew. The storm was coming, but they'd face it together. Malik Brooks adjusted the kente-lined jacket draped over his shoulders, its gold threads catching the spotlight's glare, as he stepped onto the New York Fashion Week stage. Jaden, at his side, clutched a tablet, his digital print of jazz-inspired spirals pulsing on a massive screen behind them. The crowd, fashion elites, critics, and Harlem's proud contingent, held its breath, the air electric with anticipation. Their pendants, halves of Aisha's silver necklace, glinted under the lights, tying them to her vow. Laura Bennett's threat, shame if they got hurt, echoed in Malik's mind, but his jaw set firm. Tonight, they'd tear down Vanguard-Styles' empire of lies. For Denise Harper, for their mother, for Harlem. The runway thrummed with a jazz quartet's soulful wail, their notes weaving through the brothers' collection, echoes of Harlem. Models strode in bold designs, kente swirls, Ankara patterns, and sleek lines that screamed defiance. Malik's voice boomed through the microphone, steady despite his racing pulse. "This isn't just fashion," he said, eyes scanning the crowd. "It's truth. Vanguard Styles built its empire on stolen dreams." Jaden tapped his tablet, and the screen flared with Denise's sketches from the hard drive. Their vibrant Kente-inspired lines undeniable. Gasps rippled through the audience. Jaden's voice, softer but fierce, cut through. Denise Harper, a black designer, created these. Laura Bennett stole them, erased her, because her blackness didn't fit. He swiped, and an email flashed. Laura's words, "We took Harper's work, cleansed it for the market." The crowd erupted in murmurs, cameras flashing like lightning. Ethan Marshall in the front row froze, his face ashen, his tailored suit no shield against the truth. Laura beside him gripped her clutch, her lips a tight line. Malik's heart pounded, but he pressed on. "Denise's legacy is ours. Harlem's, Black America's." He gestured to the models, their dark skin radiant against the fabrics. A figure emerged from the wings. Mr. Carter, the former Vanguard employee, his gray hair stark under the lights. His voice trembled but carried weight. "I saw it," he said, unscripted, his Harlem accent grounding every word. "Laura took Denise's sketches, laughed when they fired her. I stayed silent too long. No more." The crowd roared, Harlem's contingent, elders, artists, Mrs. Ruby among them, standing, their cheers a tidal wave. Aisha in the wings clutched her hands, the absence of her necklace a reminder of her gift to her sons. Her eyes burned with pride, tears threatening as Malik and Jaden stood tall, their designs a battle cry. Mrs. Ruby, in the audience, raised a fist, her silver braids gleaming, her voice joining the chant. "Denise! Denise!" The jazz quartet swelled, their horns a triumphant call, echoing Harlem's street festivals. Aisha's heart soared. She'd raised warriors. Laura leapt to her feet, her voice shrill. "Lies! They're opportunists!" Her heels wobbled, her composure cracking as cameras turned on her. Ethan grabbed her arm, hissing, "Sit down!" But the crowd drowned her out, their boos a verdict. Malik locked eyes with Laura, his pendant glinting. "You stole a black woman's soul," he said, his voice low, cutting. Jaden stepped forward, his tablet raised. "And we're giving it back." The screen looped Denise's sketches, each one a wound laid bare. Aisha's breath caught as she spotted Keisha in the press pit, her camera flashing, her notepad scribbling furiously. Keisha's eyes met hers, a silent promise. This goes global. The Harlem contingent's cheers grew louder, their voices carrying the rhythm of drum circles, the pulse of their community. Aisha remembered Ruby's words. Harlem's fought worse. Her boys were fighting now, and she'd never been prouder. But danger lingered. As the crowd roared, Aisha noticed a man in a dark jacket at the venue's edge, his eyes fixed on Malik and Jaden. Her stomach twisted. Laura's doing? The anonymous texts flashed in her mind, their menace now a shadow in the spotlight. She stepped closer to the stage, her maternal instinct flaring. "Stay sharp, boys," she whispered, though they couldn't hear. The jazz horns hit a fevered pitch, mirroring her pulse. Malik and Jaden bowed, the crowd's applause shaking the hall. Mrs. Ruby led a group of Harlem elders to the stage, their kente scarves vibrant, their presence a shield. "For Denise!" Ruby shouted, and the chant spread, a wildfire of justice. Ethan slumped in his seat, his hands covering his face. the weight of his empire's lies crushing him. Laura stormed toward an exit, but reporters swarmed, their questions like knives. Aisha joined her sons backstage, her arms enveloping them. "You did it," she said, her voice breaking, pride outweighing fear. Malik's eyes burned, defiant. "Not yet, Mom. This is just the start." Jaden nodded, his pendant catching the light. "For Denise. For us." Aisha's heart swelled, but the man in the dark jacket lingered in her mind. Laura's threats weren't empty, and the fight was far from over. As the jazz faded, Harlem's spirit pulsed through the hall, a promise of battles to come. Aisha squeezed her son's hands, their pendants a shared vow. Vanguard's lies were cracking, and they'd keep pushing until the truth shone free. The air in Aisha Brooks' makeshift Brooklyn office buzzed with the aftershock of her son's Fashion Week triumph. Malik and Jaden's pendants, halves of her silver necklace, caught the dim light as they pored over sketches for their next collection, their Kente-inspired lines bold with Harlem's fire. Outside, the city hummed, its jazz notes a faint echo of the runway's roar, where they'd exposed Vanguard-style's theft of Denise Harper's designs. Aisha's heart still raced from the crowd's cheers, Mr. Carter's testimony, and Laura Bennett's unraveling. But the shadow of Laura's threat, shame if they got hurt, and the mysterious man in the dark jacket lingered, a chill in her bones. Her phone vibrated, notifications flooding from Keisha's viral article. Vanguard's Lies. A black designer's stolen legacy screamed the headline, detailing Denise's sketches and Laura's damning email, amplified by Mr. Carter's words. Social media erupted. #Justice for Denise trended. Harlem's voices loudest among them. Aisha's chest swelled with pride, but fear gnawed. Laura was cornered, and cornered snakes struck hardest. A knock rattled the door. Aisha tensed, her hand grazing the empty space where her necklace once hung. Malik and Jaden looked up, their eyes sharp. "Who's that?" Malik asked, his voice low, protective. Aisha opened the door, and Ethan Marshall stood there, his tailored suit rumpled, his blue eyes bloodshot. The billionaire who'd rejected her sons in that hospital room now looked broken, a shadow of his former arrogance. "Aisha," he said, his voice hoarse, "we need to talk." She crossed her arms, her gaze iron. "You've got nothing I want to hear." Ethan stepped inside, uninvited, his hands raised. "I was wrong," he said, his words stumbling. "About Malik Jaden? Everything. I'm out. Vanguard's board sacked me. Laura's gone, sued for plagiarism." He pulled a check from his pocket, the sum staggering. "This is for your brand, Harper's Echo. A fresh start. Just don't tell the world I abandoned my sons." Aisha's blood boiled, her sons' faces, Malik's fire, Jaden's caution, flashing in her mind. "You think money buys forgiveness?" she said, her voice ablade. "You rejected them because their skin wasn't white enough for your empire." Malik stood, his pendant glinting, his fists clenched. "You don't get to claim us now," he said, his Harlem accent sharp. Jaden joined him, quieter but resolute. "You chose lies. Live with it." He tore the check, letting the pieces flutter like ash. Ethan's face crumpled, his hands trembling. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but Aisha cut him off. "Your sorry doesn't erase their pain, or mine." She thought of those hospital nights, Malik and Jaden's tiny hands in hers, Harlem's jazz carrying her through. "We don't need your money. Harper's Echo is ours. Built on truth, not your guilt." Ethan staggered back, his eyes hollow. "I wanted to make it right," he mumbled, but Aisha pointed to the door. "Get out." As Ethan's footsteps faded, Keisha burst in, her notepad clutched tight. "Aisha, the story's blowing up," she said, her eyes alight. "I interviewed Mrs. Ruby. She tied Denise's fight to decades of black designers shut out by houses like Vanguard." Aisha nodded, her resolve hardening. Ruby's voice, rich with Harlem's history, had woven their struggle into a larger tapestry. Keisha flipped her notepad, showing a draft. "This goes to print tomorrow. The world's listening. Harlem's leading the charge." Malik and Jaden exchanged glances. Their earlier tension, Malik's impulsiveness, Jaden's caution, melted into unity. "We're not done," Malik said, his voice fierce. "Our next show's for Denise, for Harlem." Jaden nodded, sketching a new design, its jazz spirals bold. Aisha's heart swelled, but a buzz on her phone broke the moment. An unknown number. You'll regret crossing me. Laura's venom, unmistakable. Aisha's breath caught, the memory of that dark-jacketed man at Fashion Week flashing. She deleted the text, her jaw tight, shielding her sons. That evening, they joined Mrs. Ruby at a Harlem community center, its walls alive with murals of jazz legends and kente patterns. Elders clapped to a drum circle. Kids danced, their laughter a balm. Ruby pulled Aisha aside, her silver braids gleaming. "You're shaking Harlem, child," she said, her voice warm but fierce. "But watch your back. Laura's kind don't quit." Aisha nodded, her hand brushing the space where her necklace once lay. "We're ready," she said, her eyes on her sons, who sketched with local teens, their designs a fusion of Harlem's soul. Aisha's phone buzzed again. An email from Maya, their Pratt professor. Hacker found more. Laura's emails to investors, admitting she buried Denise to protect Vanguard's image. Aisha's pulse raced. This was dynamite, enough to seal Laura's fate. She showed Keisha, who grinned. "This ends her." Malik and Jaden overheard, their pendants glinting. "Next Fashion Week," Jaden said, his voice steady. "We finish this." As the drum circle's rhythm rose, Aisha felt Harlem's strength in her bones. Laura's threats loomed, but her son's fire, Ruby's wisdom, and Keisha's pen were her armor. Vanguard was crumbling, and Harper's echo would rise. The fight wasn't over, but Aisha knew they'd face it as one. The New York Fashion Week stage pulsed with the rhythm of a Harlem jazz quartet, their horns weaving a triumphant anthem through the packed hall. Aisha Brooks stood backstage, her heart pounding as Malik and Jaden adjusted their kente-lined jackets, their silver pendants, halves of her old necklace, glinting under the spotlights. A year had passed since their explosive reveal had shattered Vanguard styles, exposing Laura Bennett's theft of Denise Harper's designs. Keisha's viral article and the Harlem community's roar had toppled an empire. But Laura's final threat, "You'll regret crossing me," still lingered like a shadow. Tonight, Harper's echo would rise, a testament to their fight, their truth, their roots. The crowd buzzed, fashion critics, Harlem elders, and global press, their anticipation electric. Mrs. Ruby sat front row, her silver braids catching the light, her eyes fierce with pride. Aisha's chest swelled, the absence of her necklace a reminder of her gift to her sons, now 19, their designs a blaze of African-American heritage. Malik's voice echoed through the mic, steady and commanding. "This is Harper's echo," he said, gesturing to the runway. "For Denise Harper, for Harlem, for every voice silenced." Jaden swiped his tablet, projecting a never-before-seen sketch from Denise's book, a gown of kente swirls and jazz-inspired curves. The crowd gasped, their applause a thunderclap. Models strode out, their dark skin radiant against vibrant fabrics, gold-threaded kente, Ankara prints, and sleek silhouettes that sang of Harlem's soul. The jazz quartet's notes soared, mirroring the drum circles of last year's festival. Aisha's eyes stung with tears as she watched her sons, their pendants flashing, their designs a love letter to their community. She thought of Denise's sketchbook, its pages a reclaimed legacy, and Keisha's article, now a global call for justice. #Justice for Denise still trended, Harlem's voice unyielding. Denise Harper stepped from the wings, her presence quiet but powerful. The crowd fell silent, then erupted as she raised a trembling hand. "These boys gave me back my name," she said, her voice thick with emotion, her eyes locking on Malik and Jaden. "This is for every black designer told they weren't enough." She handed them a faded sketch, her final unpublished work, a suit woven with kente and jazz motifs. Malik's voice broke as he took it. "For you, Miss Harper," he said, and Jaden echoed, "For us all." The crowd stood, their cheers shaking the rafters, Harlem's elders leading the chant, "Denise, Harper's echo." Aisha joined them on stage, her arms enveloping her sons. "You're my legacy," she whispered, her voice cracking. Mrs. Ruby climbed the steps, her kente scarf vibrant, her fist raised. "Harlem's proud, Aisha," she said, her voice a battle cry. "You built this." The quartet's horns hit a fevered pitch, and the hall felt like a street festival, drums, laughter, and pride pulsing through. Keisha, in the press pit, filmed every moment, her article's headline already forming, Harper's Echo, a Black Legacy Reborn. Backstage, Aisha's heart raced as she spotted a familiar figure, Ethan Marshall, lurking in the shadows, his once pristine suit now frayed. His eyes, hollow with defeat, met hers. Vanguard was in ruins, Laura jailed for plagiarism, her emails to investors uncovered by Maya's hacker, sealing her fate. Ethan approached, his voice a rasp. "I read Keisha's article," he said, his hands shaking. "I lost everything, Aisha. I'm sorry. For Malik, Jaden, you." He reached for her, but Aisha stepped back, her gaze steel. "Your sorrow's too late," she said. "You chose shame over love. Live with it." Malik and Jaden flanked her, their pendants glinting. "You're not our father," Malik said, his voice low, final. Jaden's eyes burned, his silence louder than words. Ethan's shoulders slumped, the weight of his choices crushing him. He slipped away, a broken man swallowed by the city's shadows, as Keisha's camera captured his retreat. Aisha's heart steadied. She'd faced his lies, Laura's threats, and won. The crowd's chant grew louder, Harlem's elders, Ruby among them, leading with raised fists. Aisha took the mic, her voice clear, unyielding. "This is for Denise, for Harlem, for every dream stolen," she said. "Harper's Echo is our truth, our strength." She handed the mic to Denise, who smiled through tears. "Keep shining," Denise said, her voice a beacon. The jazz swelled, its notes a victory hymn, as models circled the runway, their kente fabrics blazing. As the show ended, Aisha, Malik, and Jaden stood together, their hands clasped, the crowd's roar a tidal wave. Keisha rushed over, her camera still rolling. "This is history," she said, her eyes alight. "Harlem's telling the world." Ruby joined them, her arms enveloping all three. "You've made us proud, child," she whispered to Aisha, her braids brushing her shoulder. Malik and Jaden hugged Denise, their pendants touching, a shared vow fulfilled. Outside, Ethan stood alone, reading Keisha's final article on his phone, its words a mirror to his ruin. Aisha's family, Harlem's heart, had built an empire of truth. As jazz notes drifted from the hall, Aisha looked at her sons, their future boundless. "We did it," she said, her voice a song of triumph. The city's pulse beat on, and their legacy would echo forever. Aisha, Malik, and Jaden's triumph in Harper's Echo proves that truth and love outshine lies and shame. What did their journey stir in you? Did their fight for justice resonate, or do you have a story of resilience to share? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let us know where and when you're listening, and rate this tale. 1 for unforgettable, 0 if it missed the mark. Your voice fuels our stories. Thank you for joining us in Harlem's Heartbeat, for standing with Aisha's fire. Until next time, keep shining, keep fighting. We'll see you soon.